Welcome to Monk's Moon Temple. Settle in, wherever you are. Feel the weight of your body releasing into the surface beneath you. Notice the gentle rhythm of your breath, coming and going on its own. The day's thoughts, like birds at dusk, are finding their perches. Let them settle. There's nowhere you need to be, nothing you need to do, except to be right here, with me, in this quiet space. We are about to explore a freedom so close, so intimate, that we often overlook it in our search for something grander. It is the freedom of the unclenched hand. For a moment, simply notice your hands. Can you feel them resting? Are the fingers curled, or are they open? Without moving them, just bring your awareness to the sensation. There might be a slight tension in the palms, a holding, even now. See if you can consciously, gently, allow that tension to soften. Let the muscles of the hands relax, the fingers unwind just a fraction. Notice the feeling of openness that follows. A simple, physical letting go. This small gesture is a doorway. Tonight, we walk through it together, into the landscape of a mind that has learned to let go. The human heart has asked this question for thousands of years, across cultures and continents. What is true freedom? Not the freedom to get what we want, but a freedom that remains when we don't get it. Not the freedom of perfect circumstances, but a freedom that shines through imperfect ones. The Buddha, sitting under the Bodhi tree, discovered that this freedom isn't found by acquiring more, but by releasing what we already, unconsciously, carry. He saw that we are like travelers who have picked up heavy stones on our journey, mistaken them for treasures, and now stagger under the weight, wondering why the path is so hard. The path to peace isn't about finding better stones. It's about putting them down. Let me tell you a story from my own early wanderings. I was in a vast, dusty marketplace in a country far from my own. The air was thick with the smells of spices and diesel, the sounds of haggling and bells. I felt overwhelmed, pulled in every direction. In a quiet corner, I saw an old woman selling simple clay pots. Her stall was orderly, calm. A man approached, shouting angrily about a pot he had bought the week before that had developed a tiny crack. He waved it in her face, demanding a replacement, his voice sharp with blame. I watched, expecting an argument. The old woman listened until he finished. She took the cracked pot from his hands, turned it slowly, and smiled. "Ah," she said, her voice like dry leaves rustling. "The clay remembers it came from the earth. Sometimes, it whispers to the earth again through a crack. This isn't a flaw. It is the pot's story. Would you like me to mend it with gold?" She held up a tiny vial of gold lacquer. "Then the light will catch the mended line, and it will be more precious than before." The man fell silent. The anger drained from his face. He nodded, paid her a little extra, and left, cradling the pot. She looked at me and winked. "Everything cracks," she said. "The question is not if, but how you fill the spaces." That moment has stayed with me for decades. She was not attached to being right, to defending her wares. She did not cling to the idea of a perfect, uncracked pot. She saw the truth of impermanence, the crack, and instead of fighting it, she incorporated it into the beauty. She let go of the ideal and embraced the real. That is the essence of non-climbing. It is the art of mending our broken moments with the gold of acceptance, making our lives not perfect, but whole. If this space of gentle wisdom speaks to you, if you feel a resonance with this journey of letting go, you are welcome here. Consider subscribing to Monk's Moon Temple. It is a way to return to this quiet well together, to remember the gold and the cracks whenever you need. Now, let us begin our journey in earnest, not by climbing a mountain, but by learning to sit still in the valley. We live in a world that glorifies the fist. The clenched fist of effort, of grasping, of holding on. We are taught to set our jaws, tighten our grip, and chase. Chase success, chase love, chase security, chase a better version of ourselves. We believe happiness is a thing to be seized. But have you ever watched a child try to hold a handful of sand? The tighter the little fist squeezes, the faster the sand streams out through the cracks between the fingers. Only when the hand is open, relaxed, can it cradle the sand, at least for a while. Our minds work the same way. The Buddha's great insight was that our suffering, our dukkha, isn't caused by the sand, by life's experiences. It's caused by the squeezing, the clinging, the desperate, fearful grip that ensures we lose what we're trying to keep. Think of your mind right now. What are you holding on to? Perhaps a worry about tomorrow is nestled in your palm. Perhaps a regret from yesterday sits like a cold, smooth stone. Maybe it's a plan, a desire, an opinion you're gripping tightly, ready to defend. Feel the subtle energy of that holding. It's a kind of tension, a background hum of effort. The spiritual path isn't about prying your fingers open by force. It's about bringing a warm, curious awareness to the fist itself. Why are you holding this? What are you afraid will happen if you let it go? When you look with kindness, the fingers often relax on their own. We often confuse letting go with losing. We fear that if we release our grip on a person, a dream, a memory, or an identity, it will vanish forever, and we will be diminished. But look at the sky. Does the sky lose anything when a cloud passes through? The cloud is not the sky. Your thoughts, your feelings, your circumstances, they are the clouds. Your fundamental awareness, the space in which all of this appears, is the sky. Letting go is not about the cloud disappearing, it's about realizing you were never the cloud to begin with. You are the vast, open sky that allows clouds to form, drift, and dissolve. This realization is the beginning of unshakable freedom. There is a profound teaching hidden in the most ordinary act, breathing. You do not breathe. Breathing happens. The body inhales, the body exhales. You can interfere with it, you can hold your breath, but eventually, the body will take over again. It is an autonomous gift. Your only task is to allow it. This is the perfect metaphor for letting go. Your true nature is like the breath, alive, intelligent, self-sustaining. The ego, the grasping mind, is the one that tries to hold the breath, to control the process. Suffering is the strain of that control. Peace is the return to allowance. In this very moment, as you listen, see if you can shift from taking a breath to allowing a breath to be taken. Feel the difference. One is an act of the fist. The other is the openness of the palm. The ancient teachers spent their lives contemplating this single, liberating truth. They found it in the fall of a leaf, the flow of a river, the flicker of a candle flame. They saw that everything we experience, every sensation, every thought, every emotion, shares one universal characteristic: it arises, it stays for a time, and it passes away. Nothing is exempt. This isn't a gloomy observation. It is the key to the lock. When you deeply understand that what you are clinging to is already in the process of leaving, the clinging starts to look unnecessary. Foolish, even. Like trying to stop a sunset by staring at it harder. The beauty of the sunset is inseparable from its transience. The beauty of your life is inseparable from its flow. To cling is to miss the beauty while fighting a battle you cannot win. So tonight, we are not adding another technique to your collection. We are not giving you a new stone to carry. We are exploring the gentle, courageous art of setting the stones down. One by one. Breath by breath. We will move through different landscapes of the heart, through the forests of our thoughts, the rivers of our emotions, the silent caves of our deepest fears. And in each place, we will practice the same simple thing, opening the hand. Let us begin this part of our journey not with a thought, but with a sound. Listen to the space around you right now. Perhaps there is the faint hum of electricity, the distant sigh of a car, the soft rhythm of your own breath. Don't name these sounds. Just let them be vibrations in the air, arriving at the doorway of your hearing. Each sound arises from silence, lives for a brief moment in your awareness, and then returns to silence. This is the great teaching of impermanence, not as a concept, but as a direct experience. The Buddha called this anicca. The truth that all conditioned things are transient, inconstant, and subject to change. Everything you can perceive is part of this endless, graceful dance of coming and going. Consider the story of a master carpenter I once heard of in a mountain village. He was renowned for his exquisite wooden bowls, each one a masterpiece of smooth curves and flawless finish. People would travel for days to buy one, treating them like heirlooms. One year, a terrible flood swept through the valley, and the carpenter's workshop was destroyed. All his tools, his seasoned wood, and dozens of finished bowls were washed away or shattered against the rocks. When the waters receded, his apprentices found him sitting calmly in the mud, picking up a splintered piece of a once beautiful bowl. He ran his finger along the broken edge. "You see," he said to his heartbroken students, "we spent so much time learning to make the wood perfect, to make it last. But the wood was only ever visiting this shape. The flood reminded it of its true nature, to flow. Our mistake was not in creating beauty, but in believing the beauty was in the unchanging form." He never rebuilt his workshop in the same way. Instead, he began creating simple, temporary sculptures from river-reclaimed wood, knowing they would eventually return to the stream. His art became a lesson in non-attachment, more profound than any perfect bowl. We are like those apprentices, heartbroken when the forms we cherish, our health, our relationships, our possessions, our very identities, are touched by the floodwaters of change. We believe something has gone wrong. The Buddha's teaching gently corrects this: nothing has gone wrong. This is simply the nature of form. To be at peace, we must learn the wisdom of the carpenter after the flood. We must appreciate the beauty of the bowl without demanding it defy its inherent nature to eventually return to the stream. Our suffering is the gap between what is, anicca*, change, and what we demand, permanence, solidity. Closing that gap doesn't require changing the world. It requires changing our relationship to it. This brings us to a tender point: the clinging to pleasure and the resistance to pain. Our minds are wired to reach for what feels good and push away what feels bad. This is natural. But wisdom begins when we see this reflex clearly, and choose not to be enslaved by it. It's the difference between enjoying a cool drink on a hot day, and believing you will die if you cannot have one. Between feeling sadness, and believing your life is ruined because sadness is present. The problem is not the sensations themselves, pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. The problem is our tanha, our craving. Our thirst for the pleasant to continue and our thirst for the unpleasant to cease. This thirst is a bottomless well. You can spend a lifetime trying to fill it with pleasant experiences, but it will never be satisfied, for every pleasant experience inevitably ends. I knew a musician, a brilliant cellist, who lived for the roar of the crowd. The standing ovation was his drug. After a performance, he would be elated. But by the next morning, a gnawing emptiness would set in. He needed the next applause, louder and longer, to feel alive again. He was running on a treadmill of craving, mistaking the fleeting burst of pleasure for lasting peace. One night, after a particularly triumphant concert, he sat alone in his dressing room, the silence feeling heavier than ever. Instead of reaching for a drink or calling someone to replay the praises, he just sat. He listened to the silence. He felt the emptiness, the ache of it, without trying to make it go away. And in the middle of that ache, he heard something else, a single, clear note of peace, unrelated to applause or failure. It had been there all along, underneath the roller coaster of craving. He realized he had been clinging to the echoes of his own music, missing the silent space that made the music possible. His relationship to his art transformed from that night. He played not for the closing applause, but for the single note of truth in the silent moment before he lifted his bow. The practice, then, is to meet all sensations with a kind of open curiosity. When a pleasant feeling arises, a sense of comfort, a taste of joy, savor it fully. But as you savor it, whisper to yourself, this too is changing. Don't let the whisper be one of fear, but of profound intimacy with the truth. You are not ruining the joy, you are seeing it completely, which includes seeing its fleeting nature. When an unpleasant feeling arises, anxiety, physical discomfort, boredom, meet it with the same courage. Feel its texture. Observe it. And whisper the same truth, this too is changing. You are not resigning yourself to misery, you are recognizing that this visitor, however unwelcome, is not a permanent resident. It has a life cycle. By not fighting it, you allow its energy to move through you and dissipate naturally, like a storm cloud passing through the sky of your awareness. This is the middle way the Buddha taught. It is not a life of bland neutrality, avoiding all pleasure and pain. It is a life of wise engagement. You fully participate in the dance of sensations, but you don't glue your feet to one spot on the floor. You feel the warmth of the sun, but you don't curse the coming of night. You feel the chill of the rain, but you don't deny the promise of dawn. You hold it all in the open hand of awareness, knowing that the hand itself, your capacity to be present and awake, is the only thing that doesn't come and go. It is the silent witness to the endless parade of change, and therefore, it is where your true refuge lies. Let's explore now a more subtle form of clinging, one that often entangles those who walk the spiritual path itself. We can learn to let go of material things, of certain desires, but what about our most cherished ideas? What about our views, our opinions, our deeply held beliefs about how the world works, about what is right and wrong, about who we are. The Buddha included attachment to views as one of the deepest fetters binding us to suffering. We cling to our perspective as if it were the truth itself, rather than a single window in a house with many rooms. Imagine you are standing before a magnificent, ancient tree. A botanist comes and sees a fascinating specimen of Quercus alba, noting its root structure and leaf patterns. A poet comes and sees a silent elder, a keeper of stories, its gnarled branches writing calligraphy against the sky. A child comes and sees a perfect climbing fortress, a world of adventure. A carpenter sees potential timber. Which one sees the true tree? They all see the tree, but through the lens of their own views, their own conditioning. The tree itself is none of those stories and all of them simultaneously. It simply is. Our suffering begins when the botanist argues with the poet, when the child feels the carpenter's view is a betrayal. My window is the only correct one, we shout, while the tree stands silently, complete. I recall a powerful lesson from a teacher who lived in a simple hut near a crossroads where travelers from many traditions would pass. He was known for his ability to settle disputes. One day, two theologians arrived, one from the north and one from the south, embroiled in a fierce argument about the nature of the divine. Was it immanent, residing in all things? Or transcendent, beyond all things? For hours they debated, quoting scriptures, their voices growing heated. The old teacher listened patiently, brewing tea. When they finally paused, exhausted, he poured the tea. He filled their cups, and then kept pouring. The tea overflowed the cups, spilled across the table, and dripped to the floor. "Stop," cried one theologian. "The cup is full. It can hold no more." The teacher ceased pouring and looked at them gently. "You are both like these cups," he said. "So full of your own views that there is no space for anything else to enter. How can you taste the truth if your cup is already overflowing? Empty your cup. Then we can talk." The true nature of reality, like the tea, is vast and fluid. Our views are just the small cups we try to contain it in. Wisdom lies in remembering the cup is not the tea. This clinging to views extends to the most intimate view of all, the view of self. We have a story, a narrative we call to me. I am successful, I am a failure. I am kind, I am impatient. I am a seeker, I am lost. This self-view is a collection of thoughts, memories, and labels, constantly updated. We cling to it fiercely, defending it, polishing it, comparing it to others. But what if you investigated this I that seems so solid? If you look for it directly, where do you find it? Is it in your foot? Your hand? Your heart? Your brain? Is it in your thoughts? But your thoughts change. Is it in your feelings? But your feelings flow. The Buddha's teaching of anatta, or not self, is not a nihilistic denial of existence. It is an invitation to a liberating discovery. You cannot find a permanent, unchanging, independent entity that you can point to and say, "This is me," separate from everything else. What you find is a flowing process, a constellation of elements, body, sensations, perceptions, mental formations, consciousness, all interdependent, all in constant change. You are more like a river than a statue. Trying to cling to a fixed self is like trying to cling to a particular whirlpool in the river, exhausting and impossible. A story from the deserts of the Middle East tells of a man who lost his way in a sandstorm. For days he wandered, his water skin running dry. Just as he was giving up hope, he stumbled into a lush, hidden oasis. There was a clear pool, date trees heavy with fruit. He drank deeply, ate, and slept. When he awoke, he thought, "This is mine. I found it. I must protect it." He built a wall around the pool, posted warnings, and spent all his energy guarding his discovery. The labor and paranoia exhausted him more than his desert journey had. One evening, an old Bedouin, a true dweller of the desert, approached. The man shouted at him to keep away. The Bedouin simply smiled, sat outside the wall, and began to play a gentle tune on a reed flute. The music was so sweet that the man's defensiveness began to melt. "Why do you wall the water?" the Bedouin asked. "The water is not yours. You did not make the spring. You did not plant the trees. You are a guest here, like the birds and the insects. A guest does not build a fortress around the host's table. A guest gives thanks, drinks, rests, and moves on, leaving the oasis for the next thirsty traveler." The man, humbled, dismantled his wall. He realized his self as a possessive owner was a fiction that had only brought him isolation and strain. His true nature was the grateful, resting guest. When we cling to views, especially the view of a separate, solid self, we build walls around the oasis of our present experience. We cut ourselves off from the flowing, interconnected reality of life. Letting go of views means allowing the walls to crumble. It means becoming comfortable with not knowing, with the mystery. It doesn't mean you have no opinions or values. It means you hold them lightly, like a tool you can use and then set down, not like a weapon you must always carry. You can say, "This is how I see it now," leaving room for the compassion to understand another's window, and the wisdom to know that the tree is always bigger than any single view. Now, let us turn our attention to one of the most common and powerful arenas of clinging, our relationships, to people, to outcomes, to the past. We speak of my friend, my partner, my child, with a sense of ownership that contains both love and a subtle prison. We weave stories of how things should be, and suffer when life writes a different script. The heart's natural capacity for love becomes tangled with the mind's need to control, to secure, to make permanent. The Buddha's path does not ask us to love less, but to love more wisely, to love with an open hand. Consider the metaphor of holding a bird. If you clutch the bird too tightly in your fist, you will crush it. If you hold your hand completely open and rigid, the bird may be too nervous to stay. But if you cradle the bird gently in an open palm, with just enough cupping to make it feel secure, but with no pressure, it may choose to rest there. It feels your warmth, your stillness, and it is free to stay or fly. This is non-possessive love. It is a love that says, "I cherish your presence, and I honor your freedom. My happiness is not dependent on you remaining in my palm." This is immensely difficult, for it touches our deepest fears of abandonment and loss. But it is the only love that does not eventually cause suffering. I remember a woman who came to a meditation retreat, her face lined with grief. Her only son had moved across the world for his career. She supported his dream intellectually, but her heart was shattered. She missed him terribly and feared she was losing him forever. She spent her days clinging to photographs and memories, her present life a shadow. During a walking meditation, the teacher pointed to a beautiful, mature maple tree on the grounds. "See this tree?" he said. For years, it held its seeds tightly in helicopters of bark. In the autumn, it does not cling. It releases them to the wind. It does not do this because it does not love its seeds. It does it because it loves them. It gives them what they need most. Complete freedom to find their own soil, their own sun, their own life. The tree does not become empty. It stands tall, its love expressed in release, not possession. And in the spring, it grows new leaves, continuing its own life fully. The woman wept. She saw that her clinging was not love, it was a fear-shaped echo of love. True love was wishing for her son's happiness and growth, even if it took him far from her palm. In releasing the story of how her relationship should look, she began to rediscover her own life, her own soil. Their connection, freed from the weight of her need, later deepened in ways she couldn't have imagined. This clinging extends to outcomes. We become attached to how we want a situation to turn out, a job offer, a medical result, a creative project. We invest our sense of peace in a future that has not yet happened. We live in a state of anxious suspense, our minds trapped in a phantom tomorrow. The practice here is to differentiate between intention and attachment. You can pour your heart into an intention, to be healthy, to create something beautiful, to help someone. You take wise action. But then, you release your grip on the exact outcome. You plant the seed with care, but you do not dig it up every day to check on its roots. You water it and trust the soil, the sun, and the seed's own nature. Your peace remains in the quality of your gardening, not in the harvest you demand. A master archer was teaching his student. The goal is not to hit the target, he said. The goal is to be in complete unity with the bow, the arrow, your breath, and your intention. The target is there, but it is not your master. The student practiced for months but grew frustrated. He would shoot, and if the arrow missed the bullseye, he would curse and tense up. His shots became worse. One day, the master blindfolded him. "Now shoot," he said. "But you must tell me the moment you feel the release should happen." The student, blindfolded, drew the bow. He focused entirely on the feeling in his hands, the tension of the string, the alignment of his body. He waited for a sense of rightness. "Now," he said, and released. He heard the thud of the arrow. The master removed the blindfold. The arrow was dead center. The student was astounded. "How?" The master smiled. When you could not see the target, you could not cling to the outcome. Your mind was freed from the bullseye, so your body could remember its natural harmony. The target didn't move. Your relationship to it did. Our targets in life, our desired outcomes, are like that. When we stare at them with desperate clinging, we tense up and miss the mark of peace in the present moment. When we focus on the quality of our action, our integrity, our presence right here and now, we often find the outcome takes care of itself, or we find a peace that makes any outcome acceptable. Letting go in relationships and with outcomes is the practice of loving the process more than the product, the person more than their proximity to us. It is trusting life's intelligence. It is understanding that your true security was never in another person's constant presence or a specific future event. Your security is in your capacity to meet whatever arises with an open, loving, and resilient heart. That capacity is built right here, in this breath, by practicing the release of the stories that say, "I will only be okay if." We arrive now at a profound and beautiful intersection, the relationship between letting go and true receiving. It may seem counterintuitive. We often think a clenched fist is strong, able to grab and hold. But in truth, a clenched fist can receive nothing. It is already full of tension, full of itself. An open hand, relaxed and empty, is in a state of perpetual readiness. It can receive a gift, feel a breeze, touch a loved one's face, or simply rest. The deepest receptivity, to joy, to insight, to love, to life itself, requires the spaciousness of release. This is the great paradox the Buddha unveiled: emptiness is fullness. Letting go is how we truly receive. Think of your mind as a cup, submerged in a vast ocean of present moment experience. If the cup is already full of yesterday's stale water, full of regrets, old stories, fixed opinions, then the fresh, living ocean water cannot enter. You are stuck with the past. The practice of mindfulness is the gentle tipping out of the old water. Each time you notice a thought about the past or future and return to the sensation of your breath, you are emptying the cup. You are creating inner space. And into that space flows the vibrant, undeniable reality of now, the sound you're hearing, the feeling of the air, the simple fact of being aware. This is not a passive state. It is the most alive state possible, fully receiving the gift of the present, which is the only place where life actually happens. There is a tale of a rich merchant who went to a wise woman, seeking happiness. He brought with him a large, ornate chest. "I am here to receive your wisdom," he said. "Please, fill my chest." The wise woman looked at the chest, then at the man. She said nothing. She picked up a tea kettle and began to pour tea into the chest. The merchant cried out as the tea spilled over his fine silks and onto the floor. "Stop! It's full. Can't you see it's full?" The wise woman ceased pouring. "Yes," she said calmly. "It is full. You came to me with a chest already full. Of your wealth, your status, your cleverness, your desires. How can I give you anything when there is no space to receive it? You must first empty your chest." True receiving, of peace, of wisdom, of simple contentment, is not an acquisition. It is an allowance. It happens in the spaces we create when we stop filling every moment with mental commentary and agenda. This applies powerfully to our spiritual practice itself. We can turn meditation into another project, another thing to achieve. We cling to special states, deep peace, visions, feelings of bliss, and then feel like failures when our meditation is ordinary, filled with mundane thoughts. We want to get good at letting go. But this is just more clinging in disguise. The Master's instruction is always to let go of the letting go. To even release the desire for a quiet mind. Just be with what is. If the mind is busy, be with the busyness. Don't add a layer of judgment, I shouldn't be this busy. That judgment is another stone in the fist. Simply notice, thinking is happening, and return, gently, to an anchor like the breath. This gentle return is the opening of the hand. In that openness, peace may or may not arise as a particular feeling, but a deeper peace, the peace of non-struggle, is already present in the very act of allowing. I learned this from watching an old gardener tend to roses. He would spend hours, not just pruning, but also clearing away the fallen leaves and weeds from around the base of each plant. I asked him why he was so meticulous about clearing the ground. The rose doesn't just need good branches, he said. It needs clear space around its roots to breathe, to drink in the rain. If I let the dead things pile up, they block the new water and rot the stems. The beauty needs empty space to reach the source. Our minds are like that. Meditation and mindfulness are not just about cultivating good states, pruning. They are about clearing away the dead leaves of past and future thoughts, the weeds of judgment and desire, to create empty, receptive space around the roots of our awareness. Into that space, the nourishing rain of presence can fall directly. So, as we continue, experiment with this. See if you can shift from a mindset of getting somewhere or achieving peace to one of creating space. With every exhale, imagine you are not just releasing air, but creating a little more inner room. With every moment you notice clinging and soften, you are clearing the ground around your roots. You are not building peace like a wall. You are allowing peace to find you, like light fills a room when you open the windows. The light was always there, waiting for the shutters to be drawn back. Your open hand, your empty cup, your cleared garden, these are the open shutters. The peace that has been waiting outside all along is the nature of your own awareness, unobstructed. Let's explore a shadow that often walks alongside our efforts to let go, the fear of emptiness. We worry that if we release our grip on our thoughts, our roles, our busyness, we will find nothingness, a void, a meaningless abyss. The mind, which is accustomed to filling every space with something, a worry, a plan, a memory, recoils at the prospect of open space. It mistakes spaciousness for annihilation. But the Buddha's wisdom points in the opposite direction. He taught that what we fear as emptiness is actually the ground of all freedom and connection. It is not a barren void, but a fertile silence. Not an ending, but the source of all true beginnings. Imagine you are in a room cluttered with furniture, boxes, and possessions. The room feels cramped, stressful. You can't move freely. This is the mind filled with clinging thoughts. Now imagine you remove every single item. The room is empty. Is it terrifying? Or is it full of potential? The emptiness is not a lack, it is pure space. Space for movement, for dance, for new possibilities you couldn't see before. The emptiness of the room is what allows it to be a room at all. In the same way, the emptiness of mind we sometimes fear, the stillness behind thoughts, is not a blank nothing. It is the aware, luminous space that allows all experiences to come and go. It is your true home, and it is already full of awareness, full of potential, full of peace. There's a story of a famous singer who lost her voice. For a year, she could not sing a note. Devastated, she retreated to a cabin in the woods. At first, the silence was unbearable. She had defined herself by her voice, by the sound she produced. The absence of song felt like the death of herself. But as weeks turned into months, she had no choice but to listen to the silence. She heard the wind in the pines, the crackle of the fire, the sound of her own heartbeat. She began to hear a different kind of music, the music of the world itself, uninterrupted by her own performance. In that deep listening, a profound healing occurred. When her voice eventually returned, it was different. It was richer, quieter, more connected. Critics said it had a new depth, a quality of silence within the sound. She later said, "I had to lose my song to find the singer." The singer was not the voice. The singer was the one listening to the silence all along. She had mistaken the content, the song, for the context, the awareness. Letting go of the content felt like emptiness, but it revealed the true, spacious context that was always there. This fear of emptiness drives so much of our compulsive doing and thinking. We are afraid to be still, to be quiet, to be without a narrative, because we sense a confrontation with something unknown. But what if you turn toward that unknown not as a threat, but as a friend? What if the empty, quiet space in your mind is not your enemy, but your most ancient ally? The practice of meditation is, in part, a practice of making friends with this space. You sit, and thoughts arise. Instead of following them, you gently return to the breath or a mantra. In the gap between thoughts, there is a glimpse, a microsecond of pure awareness, of simple being. That glimpse is the doorway. It feels like nothing because it is no thing. It is the witness, not the object witnessed. The more you become familiar with this space, the less you fear it. You start to crave it. It becomes a refuge, a wellspring of renewal. The Buddha taught sunyata, often translated as emptiness. It does not mean nothing exists. It means nothing exists independently, permanently, or in isolation. Everything is empty of a separate, fixed self. Your thoughts are empty of a solid thinker. Your feelings are empty of a permanent feeler. This is the ultimate letting go, seeing the empty, interdependent nature of all phenomena, including the one you called me. When this is seen, clinging loses its object. What are you clinging to? A mirage. A dream. A temporary pattern in the stream. This seeing is not cold or detached. It is the source of immense compassion, because you see that everyone else is in the same boat. Clinging to mirages, fearing emptiness, seeking solid ground in a flowing world. Your heart opens in kinship. So, when you sit to practice, and you feel the fear of boredom, of stillness, of nothing happening, see if you can welcome it. Ah, here is the fear of emptiness. Don't fight it. Just name it softly. That very naming creates a little space around the fear. And in that space, you might just sense the vast, peaceful, intelligent emptiness that was there before the fear arose, and will be there after it passes. It is the sky-like nature of your mind. Clouds of fear may pass through, but they do not stain the sky. The sky does not cling to the clouds, nor does it push them away. It is simply, effortlessly, sky. Your work is not to create the sky. Your work is to remember that you are it. As we delve deeper, we come to a practical question. How do we integrate this spirit of letting go into the active flow of our daily lives? It's one thing to feel peaceful on a meditation cushion in a quiet room. It's another to maintain that open hand while stuck in traffic, facing a difficult conversation, or managing a flood of responsibilities. The Buddha's path is not one of escape, but of transformation right in the midst of the world. The practice is to see every moment, every interaction, as the perfect ground for cultivating release. Begin with the body. The body holds our tensions, our clenchings, like a living diary of our mental habits. Scan your body right now. Is there a tightness in the jaw? A hunch in the shoulders? A knot in the stomach? These are places where the mind's clinging has taken physical form. You can approach them with kindness. Direct your breath to that area. On the inhale, simply acknowledge the tension. On the exhale, imagine releasing it, softening it, letting it melt. You are not forcing it to relax, you are inviting it to. This is a direct dialogue between awareness and the embodied fist. As you soften the body, the mind often follows. A relaxed jaw can quiet a critical inner voice. Soft shoulders can ease a burden of responsibility. This is letting go in the most immediate, physical sense. Now, consider speech. How much of our speech is driven by a need to cling, to be right, to defend our position, to control how others see us? The practice of right speech in Buddhism is deeply tied to letting go. It asks, is what I am about to say true? Is it necessary? Is it kind? And often, the most profound expression of letting go is compassionate silence. It is releasing the compulsive need to fill the air with your sound, to have the last word, to correct or convince. Silence creates space for understanding to arise. Before reacting in anger or defensiveness, insert a conscious breath. That breath is the opening of the hand. In that space, you might choose words that connect rather than wound, or you might choose to listen deeply, which is one of the greatest gifts you can give, and a powerful act of releasing your own agenda. I knew a community mediator who was a master of this. He would sit with families in bitter conflict. While everyone else shouted, he would listen with complete, quiet attention. He would not take sides. He would not offer solutions. He would simply reflect back what he heard. So, you are feeling deeply hurt because, or, it sounds like you fear that, he created a container of non-judgmental space. In that space, something miraculous would happen. People, feeling truly hurt for the first time, would start to soften. Their clinging to their own victimhood or righteousness would begin to relax. They would start to hear each other. His work was not to fix them, but to hold the space so they could let go of the positions they were clinging to. His most powerful tool was his own non-clinging presence. Then there is action. We can act from a place of clinging, driven by anxiety, greed, or a need for approval, or we can act from a place of clarity and compassion. The practice is to set your intention, do your best, and then release attachment to the fruits of the action. This is the essence of the Bhagavad Gita's teaching, echoed in Buddhist wisdom. You have a right to your actions, but not to the results. Pour yourself into your work, your care for others, your creative projects. But then, let go. Trust the process. Do not tie your sense of self-worth to the outcome. A cook who is attached to receiving compliments will be anxious and may overseason the dish. A cook who is focused on the love and care going into the preparation creates from a place of joy, and the food tastes of that freedom. Finally, the busiest arena, your own stream of thoughts. This is where the micro-practice of letting go happens moment to moment. You're washing dishes, and your mind runs to a future meeting. Notice the pulling away. Gently, without criticism, bring attention back to the feeling of the warm water, the sight of the bubbles, the clink of the plates. That is letting go. You're falling asleep, and a worry loops. Notice it. Label it softly, worrying. Then feel the weight of your body on the mattress, the texture of the sheets. That is letting go. Each return to the sensory present is a release of the mental fist. It's a repotting of your awareness into the fertile soil of the here and now. This is the path in the world. It's not dramatic. It's the quiet, cumulative effect of 1,000 small releases throughout the day. Each one weakens the habit of clinging. Each one strengthens the muscle of presence. You are not trying to become a person who never feels tension, never has a reactive thought, never gets caught. You are becoming a person who recognizes the catch more quickly, and knows how to gently untangle the hook. The freedom is in the untangling, not in a mythical state of being forever untangled. In our final reflections, let's gather these threads into the heart of what it means to live with an unclenched hand. We've seen that letting go is not a one-time event, but a continuous orientation toward life, a leaning into trust rather than control, into openness rather than defense. It is the cultivation of a deep, unshakable trust in the intelligence of life itself, and in the fundamental okayness of your own being, regardless of the changing weather of circumstances. This trust is not blind faith. It is earned through your own direct experience. Every time you let go of a small worry and find the world didn't collapse, trust grows. Every time you meet a difficult emotion with acceptance instead of resistance and watch it transform, trust deepens. Every time you release your grip on an opinion and find understanding expands rather than contracts, trust is confirmed. You are learning, through practice, that the ground of being is reliable. It is not reliable because it gives you what you want, but because it consistently, unfailingly, presents you with the raw material of the present moment. And in that present moment, when you are fully there, you have everything you need to respond with wisdom and compassion. Imagine two sailors on a vast ocean. One sailor is terrified. He clings white-knuckled to the rudder, fighting every wave, cursing the wind, trying to force the boat on an exact compass bearing. He is exhausted, seasick, and miserable. The other sailor understands the nature of ocean and wind. She sets her sail with intention, she holds the rudder lightly, but she also allows the larger currents and gusts to guide her. She adjusts, she flows with the conditions. She is alert, but not tense. She respects the power of the sea, but is not in a feudal war with it. She may not arrive at the precise point on the map she first imagined, but she arrives somewhere new, often more interesting, and she arrives in peace. The boat is your life. The ocean is the flow of impermanent conditions. Clinging is the futile fight against the waves. Letting go is the art of skillful sailing, using intention and action, but within a context of profound acceptance and trust in the journey itself. The ultimate letting go, as pointed to by the Buddha, is the release of the one who is letting go. It is the realization that there is no separate, managing self that needs to orchestrate this openness. There is just life, living itself. Awareness, aware of itself. When this is glimpsed, effort relaxes into allowance. Practice becomes less about me getting better at letting go, and more about recognizing that letting go is what happens when me gets out of the way. It is the natural state when the fictional, controlling self is seen through. The fist was never really there, it was just an idea, a contraction in awareness. When the idea relaxes, what remains is the always open hand. A beautiful, simple story to close with. A young monk was straining in his meditation, his brow furrowed, trying to empty his mind. His old master sat beside him, whittling a piece of wood. After a long time, the master said, "It must be very heavy." The monk, startled, said, "What is heavy?" The master replied, "Whatever you are carrying that makes your face look like that." The monk sighed. "I am trying to let go of my thoughts, but they keep coming." The master held up the wood in his hand. "Do you see this shape? I am not creating it. The shape is already in the wood. My job is just to take away the pieces that are hiding it." He blew away the wood shavings. Your peace, your true nature, is already here. It is not something you create by letting go. Letting go is just the blowing away of the shavings, the unnecessary thoughts, the tensions, the stories, that are covering it up. Stop trying to create the shape. Just allow the unnecessary to fall away. The blowing wind of your own gentle attention will do the work. And so, dear listener, our journey through Monk's Moon Temple comes to a close, though your practice never will. You are not broken, and you do not need to become someone new. You only need to remember who you are beneath the shavings. The open sky. The still lake. The receiving hand. The grateful guest. The skillful sailor. Carry this simple truth into your sleep tonight, and into your waking tomorrow. In any moment, you can choose the open hand over the clenched fist. You can blow gently on the shavings of worry, and remember the perfect shape already within you. You can trust the ocean, set your sail, and breathe. Thank you for sharing this sacred time of listening. From all of us at Monk's Moon Temple, may you live and sleep in the peace of the unclenched heart. Good night.